All right, guys. How's everybody doing today? All right, good job. Everybody enjoying the Notacon? Last Notacon, so live it up, guys. Today we're going to be talking about Android devices. We're going to be doing a little bit of a review of different pen testing apps or attack apps you can do for local area networks. I do cover a few different web-based tools, but they're not very extensive. They're still in their own development phases. Through my research, I haven't really found anything that is Android native beyond these two tools that are for basic pen testing. We're going to go over what is required to run most of these apps. We'll go over some basic tools that you can use without needing root access. We'll go over some of the basic local area network penetration tools and some privacy tools as well. The requirements are you're going to want a rooted device if you're going to want to use pretty much about 90% of the apps that are talked about today. BusyBox, you're going to want to also have. It basically is that us? Wow, that was good, huh? BusyBox, you're going to want to also have installed. It's going to give you the ability to run several standard Linux and Unix tools. It is required by most, or is required to be used by most of these rooted applications. And it can unfortunately only be installed on rooted Android devices. The other one, of course, is going to be a network that you either have permission to use. Disclaimer, I really don't care if you have permission or not, but for my own protection and for your own, try and have permission to use the network when you're testing on it. I guess Notacon has already had one event where somebody got temporarily banned from the network for playing with these kind of tools. Basic tools. Terminal emulator is going to be one of the basic first things you're going to want to use. You can run it on non-rooted devices, but for most of the tools that I'll be talking about, well, the one tool, which is bakru, you're going to want to have a terminal emulator. Any port scanner out there on Android, they're pretty much all the same. They all do the exact same thing. They just have different layouts. I personally like port scanner 1.2. It's got a decent layout. It lets you actually specify the unique ports you want, or it has an ability to scan an entire port range. A local area network scanner, I personally like Fing. Fing is really good on newer devices. It has the ability, it has a really nice layout, but it's a little bit of a process heavy. The other one that I started using was originally Network Discovery. It's a lot more lightweight. It's not as pretty. It's not as fancy, but it all works on the same principle. How I actually the TCP UDP socket clients is actually funny because how I actually got started with this was about 5 years ago. My buddy Shane and I were messing with networks. We were screwing around with different pen testing tools, specifically EtherCap. And at that time, his brother started getting into a video game called Battle of the Immortals. So we would try and do our thing with EtherCap, just testing out different things, sniffing each other, kicking each other offline, and his brother would run 2, 3 copies of Battle of Immortal, which would completely bog down the network. So we decided we'd start using EtherCap, start kicking him off. Well, his mom got savvy to it, said, okay, you're done, can't bring your laptop over anymore. So not too long later, I got my first Android device, I rooted it, and I started playing around with TCP socket. Every connection this kid was making on the network was going over TCP. So I would just connect to the port on his computer and send it just any random message, just a raw connection, send the raw packet, and he would drop. Every single time, and tell you, they're really fun programs to mess with. You don't need root access to play with them. Beyond those, any basic Wi-Fi scanner, I like Wi-Fi Analyzer. It gives you the ability to scan an entire different range of different Wi-Fi networks. It'll provide you with a listing of the channels those networks are running on. It has a really cool ability where it'll show you the signal strength from the location you're at for multiple different networks. And it'll let you specify one specific network, and it has a sort of like a radar system, almost like a metal detector. The closer you get to it, the higher the signal strength on it goes. I've used that a few times to help buddies find out exactly where wireless networks were coming from that were inflicting on their networks. Any client service, FTP client, a Samba client, SSH client. I use and FTP and Samba and ConnectBot. ConnectBot purely is for SSH and SCP connections. Their T-packet capture, it claims that it is a packet sniffer that does not require root access. I've tried this on multiple different devices, from a Motorola Droid to a HTC One X to different tablets. I've never been able to get this tool to work properly without the device being rooted. So you're welcome to try it, but I've had zero success with it. One of the other additional tools, it does unfortunately require root access, but it's really useful, is MAC address goes. The reason I like this one specifically is it lets you, by default, store up to 8 different MAC addresses for separate locations, and allows you to enter multiple of your own. It has the ability to generate a randomized MAC address on the go in case you just need to get something random to reconnect to a network. It has these two different MAC address chain styles. I have absolutely no clue what the difference is between the two. I've always used Classic, and I've never had any problems. I could not tell you what the other one does. I have found zero documentation on it to really explain to me what the difference is between the two. Unfortunately, this particular app isn't really that well documented, as well as some of the other ones later on. Bakru is a really fun toy. It basically is a package manager. It basically is the same thing as BusyBot. It gives you a bunch of Linux-based and Unix-based tools. It gives you the ability to install them. It was actually created by one of the guys from xdadevelopers.com called Import. I think so too. I don't know. But anyway, it was created by a developer, by somebody from xdadevelopers.com. Do you want to just turn this one on, Dave? We'll just do it that way. Anyway, it was created by Import B. It provides us with a lightweight GUI interface where we can install different packages from. This is actually the application that I use to install and port over Nmap and TCP dump. And I've never had a problem running Nmap through this program. Basically, what you would do is you would get to the install screen, which is the screen that you're seeing here. You would simply click on install, you open up terminal, you type in bakru space, and then whatever application it is you installed. It has several different Python and Ruby scripts pre-installed that you can run. I'm not sure exactly how extensive that library is. I've never really used bakru for those specific applications. It does give you the ability to download and install Git and Subversion, which I have found useful installing several different tools that I thought would work, such as the WordPress or WP Scan, which complete fail on my part on that. Did not work worth the life of me. But as you can see, these are just some of the screenshots that I found on the internet regarding this app. It's got a really simple layout. You click on the app you want, you click on install, it installs it, and then it gives you the options to either reinstall it if you have to re-download the package, the chance to just remove it, just as by removing, it's just removing the install, or by removing the source code as well with the auto remove. I guess now is probably the best time to talk about these. LAN attack tools, we're going to be sort of scaling up from the simplest to the one that has everything under the sun. The first one's Droid Sheep. And Droid Sheep was actually the first tool I've actually used on my... You turn it off, Dave?
Yeah, that I did.
Oh.
I was putting out the other one.
Oh, now you tell me. Anyway, sorry guys. Droid Sheep was the first app that I used. It was written by Andrew Kesh. It's basically just a cookie hijacker. It just monitors all the non-SSL-based HTTP connections and outputs them. It gives you the cookie connection. You can click on it with Droid Sheep, open a new browser, and it'll give you exactly what they're connecting into. It's been used several times at Notacon by several different people to cause several different problems. Dave? It allows you to save the cookie sessions. Saving the cookie sessions is like a 50-50 shot. I've had it where I was sniffing from a hotel, just playing around, testing it, and caught somebody connecting to Facebook. I saved the cookie, went back a couple days later, and I was able to reconnect. Same time, I've also saved other cookies for Facebook from that same hotel, same location, and was not able to reconnect a couple days later. So depending upon if that person is still at the location and how old their DHCP lease rather is. I think that's really what determines on how long it'll hold the files. The downside to this is it does have the ability to be stopped by Droid Sheep Guard, which was also developed by Andrew Kesh. And unfortunately, this is no longer being developed by him. From my understanding from a couple of the different older blog posts that he wrote, it looks like there were some laws that changed in Germany that no longer allowed him to be able to develop this specific kind of tool. Right after that is the basic packet sniffers. Has anybody here ever messed with any rooted devices? Have any of you ever messed with any packet sniffers or anything of that nature? What have you played with, out of curiosity? Older stuff. This is actually fairly old itself. This has been out, at least 5 years. But it's just a really simplistic packet sniffer. All it does is sniff the packets and collects them into a PCAP file. The huge downside to this particular app is it has ads. It doesn't have the ability to display the PCAP file on its own. So in order to do anything with this, you have to go and download Shark Reader. It does have the ability, it uses TCP dump to be able to dump out the logs, and it does give you the ability to change the parameters. So that is one of the good things about it. And as you can see, this next slide is actually just the Shark Root Reader, and just gives you a plain output. If you actually were to click on any one of those options, it would actually give you the ASCII code that was passing through under that packet. Packet Shark is essentially the exact same thing as Shark for Root. The only difference is it has no ads, as Shark for Root does. Downside is it's slower than slower than Shark for Root is. But it does allow you the option to capture the logs and view them within the same application. The only reason I mention this is because I like Shark for Root, but this does the exact same thing. It may do it slower, but it does the exact same thing. You get the bonus without having to fill up your phone with a bunch of different applications to do it. My favorite of these three is actually the Interceptor NG. Interceptor NG is actually pretty cool. It pretty much does everything all the Droid Sheep does. It does the same thing that the packet sniffers do. The biggest difference between them is it's putting all this under one solid roof. I've heard a few people consider this to be a pen testing suite, which I wouldn't call it that in the least. It's a really good tool. I've used it a few times. The biggest pro to this is it does give you the ability to use SSL stripping. Or scripting, which allows you to, or stripping, it's supposed to be stripping, sorry guys, which allows you to basically strip out the SSL, stumbling here today, it allows you to basically disable the SSL connection. It strips away the SSL communications between where you're at and the communication to the server. It essentially is acting as a man-in-the-middle attack. But as you can see, these are just a few screenshots. The first one is actually it's plain packet sniffer. The second one here is the option for to grab the cookie sessions. And you also, like this with Droid Sheep, you're also able to save the cookie sessions for later analysis or later use. These last two tools are considered what I consider pen testing suites. They offer several different options under one roof that are a little bit different than what Interceptor NG, Droid Sheep, and Packet Shark offer. Netsploit is the first one. I consider this more of a prank style app. It does redirects. It does some really funny things to do to people on a network. It'll let you run multiple spoofs. So you can have people who are trying to get to one website getting to Meat Spin, which my buddy Shane has done to people at Comfort Inn before. Lets you drone out or blur out the images. I mean, as you can see, the options are all right there. I've caused so much havoc with my friends on their networks using this tool for no better reason than just to fuck with them. That's really what this tool is made for as far as I'm concerned. I don't care what the developer had in mind with it. You're only doing things with this on the local network, and you're only playing with people. It doesn't really have the ability to display any kind of packet information. It's not really showing us anything that's going to be password related, but it's fun to really screw with people. If you happen to have a website that has a Java injection to do a drive-by download, then yeah, at some point this would become useful for that. Downside, when you download the app, you have to download all the dependencies with it, but plus side, it does that all for you. Desploit is the big one. This app is still in development. It's constantly being developed, even though I don't know how to spell development. It's got a collection of different tools that are available between DroidSheet, Netsploit. It does require roots. It doesn't come with ads. You're going to need to, if you download BusyBot, BusyBot can be installed through any app within the Play Store, which I did forget to mention. There are some apps that will install it for free, and there are others that do have a charge to download the installer, but it does keep a constant update of the BusyBot application. Basically, it's able to allow you to attack both the router itself and the client end. And in the next version on their site, they are getting ready to implement more Metasploit tools in it. It basically has two modes. Initially, it does the same thing as Fling or Network Discovery. It's just going to scan the network, see what devices are connected, see what's out there. You have the ability to where you can attack the entire subnet, or you can attack a specific device. Where was I going? Basically, when you select to attack the network, it's only giving you man-in-the-middle attacks, but they're really well ranged. Right now, this is actually an older picture of it. Not only does it offer the ability for simple sniffing, but it does offer the ability to do simple sniffing to grab passwords, much like what, actually it's listed right here. This menu has changed on the newer version, however. But it does give you the ability to do everything that ShapeDroid does. It gives you the ability to do everything that Interceptor NG does. And it's giving you everything that NetSpoof is doing. Where it becomes a little bit more interesting is when you move over to when you're actually attacking the clients. With the client side, you're able to use all the same network attacks and redirects that you're able to use on the system itself, but you're also able to get a little bit more with it. You're able to do a simple port scan, which is quicker, or actually, let me start over on this one, guys. Sorry about that. When you go to the client side, before you can actually run any attack, you're either going to need to do a port scan, which is quicker, but it's not going to be as in-depth, and the vulnerabilities finder and the login cracker and man-in-the-middle attacks will not function as well. If you use the inspector, it takes longer, but it does a more basic scan on it. It will display to you the operating system, the MAC address of the machine, as well as all the different ports. And I believe it does sort of like an AMAP scan on it to identify what specific services are running on those ports, instead of just giving the default services that those ports would be on. Once you've gotten that information, it'll do a vulnerability scan. It just simply takes a look at the version number of the services that are running and then refers those to a Metasploit or exploit database. The login cracker does everything from FTP to Samba to NetBIOS. It's just your basic password cracker, and it's the only one that I found so far that works with any kind of precision. There are a few out there on Android in the marketplace and even outside the marketplace, but they're not. They work, but they don't work as well for everything. This one, the login cracker, and this one's a little bit quicker, allows you to use your own password files. Like there's one out there that is HTTP auth brute force. It has one distinct password file list that it has for the free version, and that's it. As far as I'm concerned, when it comes to apps like these, especially a default little brute forcer, I'm not going to pay $3 for the full version. You may be lucky and be able to download Aptoid to find a version of it that's pirated. But I'm not suggesting that at all. Not in the least. One other cool thing, which I did miss on the other slide, but I can show you on, not that one. And it won't let me go back. One really cool thing about Desploit, it actually has the ability to do JavaScript injections, which I've had a little bit of fun with. And you can do anything from popping up a message box to doing drive-by downloads with it. It allows you to compile and configure your own scripting to it and inject it, or it'll allow you to just use, what's it running for? a quick post, I guess you could say, a quick coding of just about any JavaScript. I've always used it just to do a message pop-up box. It'll do it to any site that's not over HTTPS, and it does run the JavaScript before it actually loads the site. Downside to this tool, it's going to bog down the network incredibly, and people are going to notice that there's something wrong with the network. When I've ran this on certain machines against certain things, I've always specified the client target instead of attacking the entire network. When doing that, it doesn't bog down the entire network as it would if you're attacking everything. Beyond these tools, there are a few others that I did not list here because they're either a little bit hard to use or they don't work at all. ARP-Spoof is a good tool. If anybody after the talk would like to take a look at some of these apps, I actually have my tablet with me, and you're more than welcome to play around with them, take a look at them. But the last two apps, as far as attack goes, is Droid SQL injection and SQL map check. The Droid SQL injection is pretty much a push-click hacker app. It does all of the injections automatically for you. It does have some options that you can search through, but the options are very, very limited. It's a very simple user interface, and by all means, it does work. I have used it to attack my own site before just for shits and giggles. The SQL map check is simply what it sounds like. It's just a front-end user interface for SQL map. The features right now are limited, but it is in its beta phase. The developer is working to roll out more features to it. Beyond all that, when attacking, what's the first thing we want to do is try and hide ourselves. So I figured the best thing to do is to add some privacy apps. Some of these will work on non-rooted phones, but for the most part, like I said, you're going to want a rooted device to really run anything fun. The first one is an OpenVPN installer and OpenVPN settings app. They're both created by Friedrich. You guys can pronounce it. I'm not trying. I will slaughter it. It does require root. It does require that you have the TUN device driver, which does get installed automatically when you use the VPN installer or the OpenVPN installer. It requires that you use BusyBox. As I said, though, pretty much everything here is requiring that you use it. It works well with free VPN as well as professional VPN networks. I use it all the time with VPN Book, which does offer a free VPN system. I've never had a problem running this app. Every time I've used it, I've successfully connected to the network and was able to get out. So the big thing with it is really just having the configuration files in the right spot to be able to find them. Beyond that, there's ORBot, which is ORBot and ORWeb. ORBot itself essentially is just a tool to allow you to connect to the Tor network. By itself, all it does is that. It does not set up your browser to use it. It does not set up your SSH connections to use it. It simply just connects you to Tor. What ORBot or ORWeb does is actually just links you through that Tor network. It doesn't keep a record of the history, and it can prevent cookies from being saved automatically. It basically lets you pick and choose what apps that you're going to accept the cookies for and which ones you want to overall deny the cookies for. But it's a pretty good app. I actually still use it on both my Nindroid style system as well as my normal cell phone. It doesn't require root to run either of these devices, and it can be useful, especially if you're connecting at a hotel or connecting at a school or somewhere where you can't get out. This will let you get out. And that pretty much covers it. I will be posting on Nindroid.net, which is my website, which is sort of not fully up at the moment, but at the end of the day, I will be posting two apps. One is Penetration Test Tools, which is free to download in the Android app market. It does include the ability to list all of these apps as well as other apps such as the USB chainsaw, which allows you to basically connect your phone to a computer via USB and pull information from it. There's a lot of different things out there to play with. So the stuff I mentioned is only limited to local area network hacking, and the ones I mentioned are the ones that I've played with, the ones that I've had great success with. There are better things for pen testing for Android. There's actually a system that came out from Pony Express, which is called the Pwn Pad. It's basically a Nexus 7, which is set up with a custom ROM and a custom emulation of Ubuntu. I have not yet had a chance to play with it, which is why I did not mention it in this talk. It's supposed to be really good. They do have a free community edition for it, but unfortunately that community edition won't run on my particular tablet, so I haven't had the chance to play with it. Beyond that, there's also one other pen testing app out there called Z-Anti. I've never played with that as well because you have to buy credits in order to use anything on it. Beyond that, does anybody have any questions or any app suggestions? Well, okay. Yes, go ahead.
On the Wi-Fi side of things, I don't know if you tried Insider by Notacon.
I have tried. No, I have not tried Insider because I haven't had the chance to actually purchase it. But I do know that it's out there. I just don't know what all the features are. I should actually try that one out.
Yeah, they have a free version out there.
Do they have a free one out there now? Okay, I'll have to check that one out. Actually, is that a root-based device or is that okay? I'm actually going to download that after this. But thank you. It was Ninsidder. Is it two S's? Oh, okay. Sorry. Any other questions? Actually, go ahead.
About privacy, there's also IP tables where you can download. I think it's currently still in beta mode, but basically you can close out any other ports that are on your device outside of what you're scanning, which I believe is also required if you install that Tor bot along with Tor Web on a rooted device if you want to actually tunnel the rest of the apps that are on your device.
Okay. Well, not only that, there's also a app out there that just simply called SSH Tunnel, which will perform SSH tunneling. I haven't tried it because of the VPN, the Open VPN apps, and that I haven't had a need to. But I have heard it's good. I have heard it works really well with like the free SSH, the free shell accounts that are out there for like what is it? I think it's qshell.ne. I want to say, but yeah. Well, I guess that's it. But like I said, guys, if anybody happens to have any questions regarding any of these apps, or if you guys want to take a look at my tablet and sort of get a look at some of the apps that I have, you're more than welcome to. I'll be in this room for at least the next 10-15 minutes. So feel free to come up and talk or ask any questions you may have. I guess that pretty much wraps it up for me today. Any other questions or comments or curses? No? All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate you being here, and enjoy the rest of your Notacon.